Hate waiting a week for the next episode of Radio Rental? Subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus to get early access to episodes, ad-free listening, and bonus scary stories. Visit tenderfootplus.com for details.
The following podcast includes scary stories with content that could be triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Take a break from the same old boring blockbusters and experience a new kind of movie night with Radio Rental. At Radio Rental, our videos come to life in your living room, defy all logic and reasoning, and make you question your own reality. This is not your ordinary video rental store. At Radio Rental, we carry one-of-a-kind videos so frightening, so mind-bending, you won't be able to sleep at night. You've gone Radio Rental.
Do you think you can handle the horror? Which is, ironically, exactly what my mother asked Zelon when we got engaged in 1997. Does the idea of the undead not even cause you to blink an eye? Then you must be very brave indeed. But are you brave enough for Terry's not-so-fun house? Welcome into Radio Rental. Step right up to Terry's not-so-fun house. That's right. Just for today, in honor of All Hallows Eve, I have turned my video rental store into, you guessed it, a terrifying, blood-curdling, haunted maze. Cue sound effects. All right, it's time. The maze calls to anyone who's brave enough to take it on. Line up right here, and that'll be $17.99, please. Actually, $18.99, and also, sorry, I don't have change. So you might want to just give me a 20. Sorry for that, folks.
Oh, hello there, dear customer. I assume you're here to view one of my terrifying tapes with horror stories told by real, actual human people. Well, I'm all too happy to oblige. 'Tis the season after all. So, here, let us find you a tape that fits the season. Ah, this one will be good.
I previously moved up to Philadelphia after graduating college. Really got into running up in Philadelphia. I kind of found like my first hobby in life, I guess you could say. And I was particularly excited to, actually get out and have a little bit of different terrain in terms of running in the city. I find a trail I knew I definitely hadn't been on before. I get out to the trail directly after some really, really rough thunderstorm weather. I show up, nobody else is there, presumably because of the terrible weather that had just occurred. I get out, get my shoelaces together, do my stretching and everything like that, and I get my watch set up, and I put my phone away. I keep it in my car because I don't like to run with it. The plan was to run 5 miles, pick a direction, stay on the trail, do 2.5. Once I hit that 2.5 mark, turn around and come back. It was around 7 p.m. in late August, so still a decent amount of light. With the pace that I normally do, it shouldn't have taken me more than 30, 40 minutes, so I should get back plenty of time before it's too late or too dark, and everything should be fine. So I kick out, and it's gorgeous. There is this nice creek to the left of me. as I'm going down this trail. There's different trails that are kind of forking off, and I'm just making sure I'm following the signs that, they allow horses on them because they're wider and the rain hadn't really washed out too much of them. A good bit down the trail, I notice another individual coming past me. I could tell that it's definitely an older woman. Her clothes really didn't stick out to me or anything like that. But what did really stick out to me was she had this super long, white, straight hair. It stuck with me. I was just thinking, like, wow, her hair is insane. Like, I wonder if that's natural. I continue on with my run. I'm making good time. It's starting to cool off now, so I feel a little better. I'm working up a sweat. When I got to the 2-mile mark, I'm coming down a valley, and I can see another individual on the trail. Looks like they kind of have the same clothes as the woman that I saw before. And as I'm getting closer, I notice again the hair. Instantly, I get this shiver of adrenaline come over me. Oh my gosh, I made a wrong turn somewhere. I just went in a loop. There's no way that this woman should be passing me. I thought I was on the same trail. I'm continuing straight and I'm moving along pretty fast. A lot faster than this woman who's presumably just kind of meandering along, walking. She's looking at her feet as she's going up, and I'm coming down. And I could have sworn she had like this look on her face that she knew I was freaked out. Like, she knew that she was freaking me out. She had like this smirk or whatever. I fly past her. I kind of start to slow down. I'm a little bit confused. I'm looking around at maybe if there's any signage or anything, trying to get my bearings. Either she knows the trails better than I do, and maybe there's a cut through, and she had cut through and cut me off somehow. There's no way that she was moving that fast to do a loop or anything on this trail. The trail wasn't supposed to loop at all. What I had decided to do was, I'm going to turn around, trust myself. I'm going to go back the way I came, and I'm just going to assume that this woman knows that there's a cut through and she took it. That's the only plausible explanation as to how she's coming in the opposite direction of me. I gather myself. I start making my way back up the valley. It finally begins to level out, and so my gaze starts going from my feet to in front of me, and then finally I can see directly down the trail to the bridge that I had crossed over to go over the highway. I'm jogging up to it, and my heart starts to sink, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh my God. The gate is closed. Why is this closed? Who closed this? Maybe I can go ahead and open it. And I finally get up to it, and I'm looking at the signage that I just had completely ignored when I was running it over the first time. And it's an automatic gate. Essentially, it closes off and it cuts off access to the two sides of the trail system automatically at 8 p.m. As I'm sitting there and I'm freaking out, like, oh my God, crap, I gotta figure out how I'm going to get around this. I don't have my phone with me, so I can't look at any maps. It hits me. Where's the woman? She was going in the opposite direction. There's no way that she got back over the bridge before 8 p.m. simply by walking. I'm thinking from a logical sense, okay, this confirms to me that there has to be a cut through. There's no way that this woman made it to the side of the bridge before this gate closed. In addition, there's no way I'm the only moron that has gotten themselves trapped on the other side of this embankment by 8 p.m. I start looking around, maybe even something as simple as a deer trail that cuts through the sides of the woods and maybe gets to a less treacherous embankment of the highway in which you can just kind of walk across the highway. I'm looking around. It's starting to get a little dark now, and it's cooling off, and the wind starts swirling. It looks like there might be another round of these storms coming in. I start to look around, jog a little bit slow, back down the embankment, looking for this cut through that this woman had to have taken. Not seeing anything. I jog all the way back down, looking from side to side to see if there's any cut through. Nothing. Running out of options. It's starting to get dark. It's getting real windy, and I'm getting real freaked out. I decide to start running back down the embankment, definitely at a faster pace, and hoping that it loops somewhere just to get over to the highway and figure it out from there. Totally freaked out at this point, confused, and just moving in a direction in which I have no idea where it goes. I don't know where it snakes. All I know is that I gotta keep going to my right and make sure that I know, or at least can hear, where this highway is. It's getting real dark and windy. There's dark storm clouds moving in, so it's a lot darker than it should be at this point in time. I remember looking at my watch to keep track of the time, and I was around 4 miles. I'm starting to get exhausted. I'm freaked out. And just as I'm kind of having this realization, like, I'm in a pretty bad spot right now, especially without my phone, I just hear this gut-wrenching shriek. Echoing around me. Like nothing I had heard before. Just encompasses the whole tranquility of the forest. It 100% sounded human. It sounded distressed. It sounded like it was right next to me. Because it's dark and the canopy's over me, I'm not able to determine the direction of it. It feels like it's swirling around with me in the wind. I full on felt like I was gonna have a panic attack. My body and everything in me is just saying, we gotta go. I'm completely just beside myself, and I'm just sprinting. I'm not paying attention. I'm not looking at the trail, really. I'm just running. I'm getting destroyed by pricker bushes and branches and stuff in my way. I'm just flailing, running as fast as I can through these woods. Just hearing my breath. Running through these woods, twisting my ankle, crashing into stuff. At this point, it's extremely dark, and I can barely see 20, 30 feet into the woods beside me. There is this presence that is just half a step away from me, ready to grab me, and I couldn't go fast enough. I continue down the trail, and I spot the highway, still on a pretty decent embankment, but at this point I'm like, screw it, I'm not staying in here. I just send myself down this embankment. I stayed on my feet for about half of it and eventually started to roll, crashing through pricker bushes, rocks, sticks, and just come crashing down onto the highway. I pick myself back up, don't even check if I'm okay, and I just start jogging on the pavement back up the highway to the right, and I finally spot the trail entrance where my car is. I get in the car, I put it in drive. I drive a Tesla, and the autopilot feature just kind of comes on. It's detecting a human figure just standing in front of the car. I look up, nothing's there. I throw the car into reverse, and I'm still looking at the screen, following my cameras as I'm backing out of the entrance, and the figure is still standing there. Even as my car moves, the figure that the car is detecting isn't moving at all. And nothing's there. There's no pole, there's no tree, there's no reason why the car should be confused and thinking that there is a human figure standing right in front of me. Not a thought in my mind other than I need to get the hell out of here. I push it down in the drive and I just punch it home, floor it. Driving like a maniac around these very dark, creepy, windy roads back to my place. I walked in, shut the door, locked it. I remember checking every single door and window in the house, making sure they were locked as well. Didn't turn on the TV, didn't make dinner, didn't do anything. I straight up got my dog, went to my room, shut the door, locked it, and just laid in bed. I don't even remember particularly falling asleep that night. I was just sitting there over and over again, trying to make sense of what had just happened to me. It doesn't make sense how she got in front of me. It doesn't make sense how she would have gotten over the bridge. It doesn't make sense that there were, in fact, no cut-throughs, that I had to move an additional 2-3 miles just to get to a small enough embankment that I wasn't going to die if I threw myself down. Where these trails are believed to be where individuals who are involved with satanic rituals live. There's a lot of old stone, dilapidated structures that are known as witch huts and things of that nature. That entire situation of her getting on the other side of that highway, not passing me and coming in the other direction, her movements, the shriek, the figure being pointed out by the car in the autopilot system, I'm 100% certain that something supernatural was with that woman. She had to have been a witch.
You see, this is why I don't run. Nothing good can possibly come from running. Was it worth it? Was the improvement in your cardiovascular health worth the emotional scarring, worth the toll? Was meeting a real-life witch worth it for the Fitbit score? If the answer is yes, then honestly, leave my store right now. I'm not kidding. Leave and just get the fuck out. In other news, let's run some ads to pay the bills. Please enjoy. I'm sorry. No refunds. That's the policy. Save your tears for someone who cares, kid. I told you it was going to be scary and maybe even a little bitty bit dangerous. So, here, just take this microwave popcorn packet. Now beat it. I'm so sorry. That kid was trying to claim he got hurt in the maze. Well, and look, I'll admit the whole operation is a little, rickety. Listen, the occasional exposed nail is just part of the spooky charm. It's old-fashioned. Sorry, I'm not Frank Geary. It's a haunted maze and a dilapidated video store, asshole. Plus, the kid signed a waiver, so it's fine. Now, let's get you set up with a whole other tape and let the spooky thrills continue. Oh, this one should be good. Maybe I should have you, the listener, sign a waiver too. Don't read the fine print.
My wife and I, we moved our kids up to New Jersey from Florida in the fall of 2021. We lived in this little apartment. It was really cramped. We were renting at the time, and we thought, we really want to try and buy a house up here because we know this is going to be a permanent move, and we want to make this into something long-lasting, so let's start house hunting. Found a couple of houses that we liked. We put in offers. Nothing ever came from them. They were always asking for more than what we were willing to pay. Our real estate agent was so sweet, she actually found one for us. It was in a town we liked, in a really nice neighborhood, and from the pictures, it looked big and spacious. For what they were asking for, it was reasonable, so we went to go check it out, and the only time that she had available was 8 o'clock on a Friday. We ended up meeting her there. We brought the kids with us because it was so late. We pull up to this thing at 8 o'clock at night. Tons of trees, very creepy, gravel driveway. I was thinking already from the outside, I don't know if this is going to be our place. It doesn't feel very welcoming. It didn't look like any of the others on the block. The others looked very suburban America. This one looked like a shingled big square, like a block just put there. There were no parts that came out. There was nothing that was sticking out that was different. There wasn't even a backyard. It was just a box of a building. We walked into the house. The first thing that hit me was the smell. In fact, all of us noticed it. Even my kids held their noses. Big smell of cigarettes. It was stale and musty, and it smelled kind of damp and wet. It smelled like somebody had been a smoker there their whole lives, and it had seeped into everything. It was fully furnished. Everything was still left in it from the previous owners. There were couches, there were chairs, the kitchen still had dishes. I believe that there was maybe even still a dish in the sink or two. Newspapers that were still on the table. There were books that had been, splayed open as if somebody had been in the middle of reading them. Magnets with pictures, family pictures. There was a bulletin board up on the wall with family things. Nothing had been moved. Everything was still exactly where it was. Immediately made me feel like this place is just not a comfortable house, and we were going to have to do a ton of work on it, not just from the outside, but also the inside. We needed to get rid of some things, and whatever was causing that smell needed to be taken care of. There was no seller. It was the bank that was doing the selling. The courts were still deciding as to who was going to be selling it, where the money was going to. And normally what happens is that if there is no next of kin, then the bank gets it, or the courts have that decision. We knew that there was maybe the possibility that maybe this is the last in a line of family, and there was no one to sell the house. So it was maybe going to be a bit more of a complicated process to actually get this house, because there were some decisions that still had to be made legally, but we still wanted to give it a shot. I had that in mind when I was looking at it, and I thought, okay, maybe that musty smell is, years and years and years of being lived in, and there's nobody that's been around to clean this place out. So my first thought is, if we do get this house, we need a dumpster, or a few dumpsters, because there's a ton of stuff in here. It wasn't a hoarder house, but it definitely felt old, but it was really big, and I liked the layout. It was going to need work, but I thought, okay, there's potential here. With a little bit of elbow grease, we could actually make this place pretty livable. So we're moving through the house. I'm still smelling that mustiness, still feeling like this place is just a little humid, it's a little damp, maybe the air conditioner hasn't been working. We go up these stairs and we get to the bedrooms, and the smells got stronger, mustier, wetter. That was when, to me, I was putting the pieces together of, The house is being sold by the bank. It's being arbitrated in the courts. There's a lot of different questions about this place. And I thought, okay, maybe somebody passed away in this house. It's very possible that they just got rid of the person and they just kind of left the house alone. That wasn't something that bothered me. It wasn't a deal breaker. I felt sad that might have happened, but people pass away in houses all the time. It definitely wasn't something that stood out to me as a red flag. Then we get to the master bedroom. The master bedroom was red. The carpet was red. There were red drapes. I think the wallpaper was even like a burgundy. Everything was red. It was kind of scary. It was like a thing from like a villain in a Disney movie. The smell of that must was really, really strong in the bedroom. My first thought is, okay, if this was an older person, they probably died in the bedroom. Then we look in the bathroom that's connected to it. My wife's and my first reaction was to hold our kids back so they didn't go in there. The first thing I thought was that there was a carpet in the bathroom. And then when I looked closer, I actually thought that it was a moldy rug because it was stained with blacks and greens and browns. And I thought, oh my God, what happened here? And how could they just leave it like this for the showing? And then I noticed that it wasn't regular. It wasn't rectangular. It wasn't circular. It wasn't like a bathroom rug. It was an irregular shaped, huge patch of mold that almost covered the entire tiled floor. A carpet of greens and blacks and browns that was literally carpeting from the entrance where the door was all the way to the tub and to the toilet. Even our real estate agent said, what the hell? She didn't know about this. This was the first time she'd visited this house. We're looking at the floor. I've seen mold before. Mold doesn't grow like this just from wetness. And bathroom floors, tiled, like things evaporate. Things don't sink into the floors. This is something that hasn't been cleaned. This is something that has been left. This is something organic. It was where the smell in the house was coming from. That mustiness was kind of centered just in that room. And then I looked at the toilet. The toilet was kind of positioned in the corner of the room. So there was like a wall next to it as there was one behind it. The wall next to it, about 4 or 5 feet up, it looked like somebody had scratched into the wall and had tore out chunks of the wood and the drywall and the studs behind it. It looked like it had been clawed. And I thought, that's really strange. Unless there was like a picture hanging there and it just somebody knocked it hard down off the wall. Like, what would cause that? Were they working on something? Were they trying to install something? Because it was straight through the drywall and there were literally chunks of wood that were like poking out. It was when we were walking away from that I thought, you know, that's interesting. That's right at seat level. That's where somebody's head would be if you're sitting on the toilet. I feel like I kind of got my answer when we got to the basement. The basement was massive. It was the size of the entire house. Everything under the house was this very finished basement. And I thought, oh my God, this is great. This is going to be a place I can do projects and hobbies, and the kids are going to have a playroom down here. First thing I noticed was a gun safe right at the bottom of the stairs. And there was a revolver sitting right on top of the gun safe. The gun safe itself was locked, but there was an unholstered revolver just sitting on there. And there were a couple of bullets scattered around it. And I immediately went up to it and like stood in front of it so my kids couldn't see it or they couldn't grab it. I looked at it, there weren't any bullets in it. And I said the first thing to my real estate agent, I said, that's a gun. And she looked at it and she went, well, that is a gun. That's interesting. I think that comes with the house. Do you guys want a gun? And I said, well, I wonder what else is in the safe. We start looking around the basement. There's tons of stuff there. This guy had hunting equipment, workout equipment, tools, everything. At that point, we went back up to the kitchen and we started looking around, and the kids were kind of telling us their thoughts on the house. And we started talking to our real estate agent, and she said, you know, the fact that it's in arbitration right now and that the courts are still kind of deciding some stuff, that means you may have a lot of leeway, and it means that a lot of people might not be wanting to stick it out. Why don't you make an offer and we can see how it goes? We said, all right, if we make an offer on this place, we probably are going to pay a lot less than we would anywhere else, and we could put the rest of that money into actually fixing it up. I don't know what it was that struck me, but I saw something on a bulletin board in the kitchen, and it was a thank you letter from a bunch of students. I Googled the last name when I was standing there because I thought, oh, maybe this is their house. I was curious about who the people were that lived here, and there was a lot of things all over the place with their name on it. So I thought, all right, I'll just check it out. The thing that I saw was the obituary for the husband. The wife had passed away a few years before the husband. And his obituary was very vague. It was very short. It even mentioned something about how he was sad and heartbroken since his wife had passed away. And literally everything just kind of clicked in my head at that moment. I started making the connections. Okay, something spilled in the bathroom. There's a hole next to the toilet in the wall. And there was a gun that somebody must have just placed really quickly on top of the gun safe because they couldn't get into the gun safe, and maybe that's close enough. And I came to the conclusion that somebody had probably killed himself in that bathroom. Nobody went and cleaned up anything in the bathroom after that. Nobody cleaned up the spills. I imagine it was just a really quick situation where they just wanted to get rid of it and leave. It made a lot of sense to me. So the first thing I did is I went and took my wife aside and I said that. She nodded and she said, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I showed her the obituary and she asked me, does that change how you feel about this house? And I said, no, it doesn't make any difference. It's just really sad. And I just want you to be aware of these conclusions that I'm coming to. After we spoke to the real estate agent for the last time, we shared the idea with her. We told her that we were still interested. We left the house, walked back to the car. We realized how late it was and the kids hadn't eaten, so we decided that we're gonna go get the kids some burgers or something from McDonald's. Immediately, my daughter falls asleep in the back seat. My son is asking us questions about the house, and he's trying to chime in with his opinion as his mom and I are talking about what just saw, what we experienced, what we believe happened. Just got that weird feeling and the mustiness. That is biohazard. Like, that's something we might need to take care of pretty quickly because who knows what damage it could have done to the floorboards. But I definitely got a sense from my wife, and I think I was kind of emanating this too, this feeling of just being very creeped out by that house. What about this really devastating, sad story that we've just put together in our minds? And do we want to live in a place where it has that kind of a history to it? We're still kind of chatting back and forth. My wife turns around to our son, says, hey, we're almost at McDonald's. Can you go ahead and wake up your sister? She turns back around again. And at that moment, we heard the sound of a deep old man's phlegmy smoker's cough coming from the back seat. And it smells like cigarettes in the car. And we don't smoke. We heard it so clearly, so distinctly, that my wife and I looked at each other. We looked back at the kids, and my son is looking right at us with his eyes wide open. And then he turned his head and looked at the trunk. And then he looked back at us and he looked terrified. My wife and I immediately do a double take. We look at each other. I said, did you hear that? And she said, I heard that. What was that? And I look at our son and he just looks at the back seat again. And he looks at us again. And he goes, I think there's someone in the car. I immediately just froze. That was not my daughter. That was not my son. We all were thinking the same thing. Someone crawled into our van when we were in that house. Without saying anything, I pull over the car. My wife is looking at me terrified, almost in panic mode at this point, because what else could it be? There was nobody on the sidewalks. I definitely couldn't hear anybody through the windows as we're talking, as we're driving. That sound came from inside the car. I stepped out of the car and went to the trunk. My son was so scared, he didn't even want to look to see if there was anything there. And anything that I would do, anytime, any other day, he would want to be there looking, seeing what he could do, seeing if he can get his hands dirty too. I opened up the trunk and I was prepared for anything. I didn't have anything in my hands, no baseball bat or wrench or anything. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have to punch him. And there was nothing there. I did a double take. I looked underneath things. I reached my hand under the seat in front of it. Not that anyone could actually fit there, but I tried anyway. And there was nobody there. The first question I had for my son was, "You heard that too, right?" And he went, yeah, there's someone in the trunk. And I went, "No, there's nobody here." And I looked around at that point at the sidewalks and anything behind us. Was there somebody walking? Was there somebody in a car next to us? There's nobody here. There's nothing. I closed the trunk and I got back in the car. My wife is still looking terrified. My son's still looking terrified. My daughter's waking up. She has no idea why we're still scared. My son kept saying, "Are you sure there's no one back there? Are you sure there's no one back there?" And I said, "No, there's nothing here." And he just went, "No, Daddy, there's someone back there." And I said, "No, there's not." The first thing that I said to my wife was, "Did we just hear a ghost? Did something come with us from that house?" In my head, I'm starting to immediately make these connections between we just left what was definitely a smoker's house, believing and with the almost certainty that this person had killed himself. And here's this family that then leaves his house and we hear a smoker's cough. I have never believed in ghosts. I always feel like there's a rational explanation to things. It just was a very strange thing to happen. It's the only time in my life where I ever felt like, okay, I just experienced something that I can't explain. If this is a ghost, if this is some sort of energy that has followed us home, is it still with us? If it was a ghost, did he like us? Did he want to get to know us? Did he want us to buy his house? All these things were going through my head. It's the only time in my entire life where I felt as if we experienced something, I don't want to say supernatural, but it was unexplainable. I think it's a good thing that we didn't end up getting the house, the amount of work and time and money, but if there was anything that was going to ever make me think that ghosts are real, it was that.
Jeez Louise, wow. Grisly. What a saga. A chain-smoking ghost. Ugh. That's honestly pretty cool. But look, I didn't like how judgy that family was about the mold in the house. I mean, mold isn't that bad for you. Mold never hurt anyone. And if you are concerned about mold on the carpet, I probably wouldn't come back to this little store. That's all I'm saying. Look, I'm alive. You'll be fine. You're fine. You're fine. I mean, without mold, there's no such thing as cheese. You're welcome. So, let's play some ads while I light up. Tar. That's some smooth breakfast of champions. Okay. I hear you all. I hear you. You have been heard. Bunch of ingrates. It's too much for you, huh? Fine.
Then you're going to get exactly what you asked for. Terry's Not-So-Fun house is officially closed. Cerrado. Finito. Yeah, oh, sorry, not sorry. If you're going to complain this much, then the fun is over. So just, you know what, just all of you, hey, get out of here. That's it, that's right, we're done. Get out of here, scram, goodbye. Oh, boo-hoo-hoo. Thanks for coming. Goodbye. I'm gonna miss you so much. Your costume sucked anyway. Get out. Out.
Wow, kids these days can't handle anything. Apparently, Malachi dressed as a werewolf at the end, and that was way too much for these kiddies. And sure, I mean, as I do every year, I pumped him up on pumpkin spice and catnip before his shift, but a potent combo. But I promised Scary, and I needed to deliver. Oh, Jesus, Malachi! Oh, God. Oh. You see, not that scary. Oh, jeez! Ow! What the hell? No more pumpkin spice for you. Should have learned my lesson last year. But last year's all a big blur, to be honest. Anyway, thank you all for joining us for Halloween, dear customer, and we'll see you again soon on the other side of the holiday. Stay spooky out there. Okay, Malachi, settle down. Easy, boy, settle down. I'll have to withhold your wages. Oh, okay. Fine. I'll give you a raise. That's what I meant all along. Sweet kitty. Sweet kitty. Oh, boy. Get out while you still can.
Radio Rental is created by Payne Lindsay and brought to you by Tenderfoot TV. Lead producer is Eric Quintana. Executive producers are Payne Lindsay and Donald Albright. Hosted by Rainn Wilson as his character, Terry Carnation. Written and produced by Meredith Stedman. Additional writing by Mark Lachlan. Supervising producer is Tracy Kaplan. Associate producer is Jaja Muhammad. Editing by Eric Quintana, Mike Rooney, Stephen Perez, and Meredith Stedman. Sound design by Cooper Skinner, with additional sound design by Stephen Perez and April Ruha. Mix and master by Cooper Skinner, with additional mixing by Stephen Perez and Devin Johnson. Original score by Makeup and Vanity Set, with additional score by Jay Ragsdale. Video editing by Dylan Harrington. Cover artwork by Trevor Eiler and Rob Sheridan. Special thanks to Oren Rosenbaum and the team at UTA, the Nord Group, Station 16, Beck Media and Marketing, and the team at Odyssey. If you have a radio rental story that you'd like to share, please email us at yourscarystory@gmail.com or contact us via the form on our website, radiorentalusa.com. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Radio Rental. You can also follow the illustrious Terry Carnation on social media. Just search at Terry Carnation. On behalf of the Radio Rental store, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, rate, and review. Thanks for listening.